Earlier this month, Tucker Carlson caused quite an uproar after he announced that he'd be interviewing Vladimir Putin. Well, that interview happened, and now we're hearing that Vladimir Putin himself felt that the interview was just full of softballs, and he was disappointed by that. Apparently, he was preparing for a sharp Tucker Carlson to ask pointed, difficult questions, and that just did not come to fruition. So here's a little reminder of what the very beginning of the interview looked like, which I think is a good representation of the rest of the conversation.
On February 22nd, 2022, you addressed your country in a nationwide address when the conflict in Ukraine started, and you said that you were acting because you had come to the conclusion that the United States, through NATO, might initiate a, quote, surprise attack on our country. And to American ears, that sounds paranoid. Tell us why you believe the United States might strike Russia out of the blue. How did you conclude that?
It's not that America, the United States, was going to launch a surprise strike on Russia. I didn't say that. Are we having a talk show or a serious conversation?
Here's the quote. Thank you. It's a formidable series.
Because your basic education is in history, as far as I understand.
Yes.
Now, in the very beginning of that interview, I mean, Putin had a nearly hour-long monologue without interruption from Tucker Carlson. And, usually that doesn't happen in an interview, but it happened in this case. Now, later, Russian President Vladimir Putin stopped all over Tucker Carlson and gave him a pretty scathing review for his interviewing techniques. Putin told Russian interviewer Pavel Zarubin, "I honestly thought he would be aggressive and ask so-called sharp questions. And I wasn't just ready for that, I wanted it, because it would have given me the opportunity to respond sharply and kind. But he chose a different tactic." But guys, I mean, listen, the trolling Tucker Carlson stuff is fun, and I do think that Tucker was easy on him with one exception, which we'll remind you about with a clip in just a moment. But before we get to that, you think Vladimir Putin didn't know that Tucker Carlson would be far friendlier to him than someone else in the media? He knew, of course he knew. He's like, oh, I was ready for the tough questions, it's just that they were never asked. Now, he also said this. He, meaning Tucker Carlson, tried to interrupt me several times, but still, surprisingly, for a Western journalist, he turned out to be patient and listened to my lengthy dialogues, especially those related to history, and didn't give me reason to do what I was ready for, meaning ready for the hard questions.
We might have millions of people watching this show, but you can be the difference maker, because we just need 1% of our audience to be paid members, and then this show can be around forever. So you can make that difference. Click join now.
So Jake, well, how do you see this? Like, I see this as like a tactic, a little strategy by Putin.
Yeah, I'm kind of amazed because I'm not in this mindset, and so when I see them do it, I'm always a little shocked by it. So guys who are natural born bullies like Trump and Putin, when someone is good to them, nice to them, gives them something that they want, like a decent person goes, oh, thank you, I appreciate it, or shows some sort of kind of appreciation. But for the bullies, they go, oh, good, that means you're weak, I'm strong. And they make more fun of them. And so like Tucker Carlson comes to him and goes, I will do your propaganda for you, sir. And then afterwards, Putin goes, ha, look at this. I used him like a weak person that he is. Go ahead, little man. Okay, you didn't even challenge me. Wait, he did you a giant favor, right?
Well, it's actually a little different, because remember, Vladimir Putin's the guy who did the photo shoot shirtless on a horse, right? He wants to be viewed as a strong man. And so it doesn't really bode well for you when you engage in an interview that isn't challenging, right? It makes it look like you specifically decided to seek out someone who would be friendly to you and give you a softball interview.
No, but he does that with Russian TV all the time. All those people are like, oh, Mr. Putin, no, you are the greatest. Please tell us how you score all the goals in hockey and beat all the men with your bare hands. Okay,
that's true. But you would expect a tougher conversation from US-based journalists.
In other words, what you're saying is, and you might be right about this, is that he wanted a more sophisticated form of propaganda.
Yes.
Where there was a tiny bit of a fake fight.
Yes, but he's pretending like he wanted a tough interview. He didn't want a tough interview.
No.
If he wanted a tough interview.
Yeah, but hey, Vlad, come here, I'll give you a tough interview.
Yeah,
you want a tough
seriously.
interview? Yeah.
Open invitation.
Anytime you like, brother.
If you want the sharp questions, Putin, you'll get them here.
Yeah, and by the way, so like the Hillary Clintons of the world will be like, no, don't interview Vladimir Putin, that helps Russia. No. We got this. Come on. See if you could, get your points across. Well, look, you said you wanted to test how good you are at interviews. You're welcome at Young Turks anytime, okay? Because we do real interviews. My guess is you would come to regret it. Okay.
And by the way, I think anyone is up for grabs when it comes to an interview, right? Like, I didn't have a problem with Tucker Carlson announcing that he was going to interview Vladimir Putin. There's nothing wrong with him interviewing Putin. How he conducts the interview is where the question lies, right?
100%.
If you're going to do a propaganda, softball interview with someone to prop him up, well, then it's a problem. But if you challenge him and you ask important, interesting questions, that's entirely different. You're doing your job as a member of the media. Now, with that said, there was one moment in this conversation that I thought did bode well for Tucker Carlson. He did ask Putin a question that I don't think Putin liked, but I'll let you judge for yourselves. So he specifically mentioned a US journalist who has been imprisoned in Russia. Let's take a look at how Tucker handled that portion of the conversation.
I'm just going to ask you one last question, and that's about Evan Gershkovich, who's the Wall Street Journal reporter. He's 32, and he's been in prison for almost a year. And I just want to ask you directly, if as a sign of your decency, you would be willing to release him to us and we'll bring him back to the United States.
We have done so many gestures of goodwill out of decency that I think we have run out of them. We have never seen anyone reciprocate to us in a similar manner. However, in theory, we can say that we do not rule out that we can do that if our partners take reciprocal steps.
What makes this different is the guy's obviously not a spy, he's a kid. And maybe he was breaking your law in some way, but he's not a super spy, and everybody knows that, and he's being held hostage in exchange, which is true. With respect, it's true, everyone knows it's true. So maybe he's in a different category. Maybe it's not fair to ask for somebody else in exchange for letting him out. Maybe it degrades Russia to do that.
He was receiving classified, confidential information, and he did it covertly.
He's a 32-year-old. Like most people.
He committed something different. He's not just a journalist. I reiterate, he's a journalist who was secretly getting confidential information. I do not rule out that the person you refer to, Mr. Gershkovich, may return to his motherland. By the end of the day, it does not make any sense to keep him in prison in Russia.
So there you see Tucker pushing back quite a bit. There were follow-up questions, so he does deserve credit for that portion of the interview. But Cenk, he was receiving secret information, classified information, which journalists tend to do. That's usually what journalists do. They get leaks or they get classified information and they report on it.
Anna, niet. He was not just a journalist. He was a good journalist, which we do not tolerate.
Totally, yes.
You're lucky we did not push zinc on top of his head. Okay.
Push off balcony.
Or maybe he falls off balcony one day if you keep talking. Okay. By the way, as I was watching that for the second time, and we're being way too fair to Tucker. That was a tiny part of the interview.
It was
for 2 hours. He filleted him, and then at the end, one decent question, right? So it would have been hilarious if Putin was like, "This girly man has come here to interview me. I am amused by his weakness. Arrest him."
Oh my God. No, that'd be crazy. That'd be crazy.
Now you have to give me another spy for your stupid ass Tucker Carlson. Okay.
I really wonder what MAGA world would do, how they would react to that.
I don't know. Let's find out. No, I'm kidding. I hate that girl, but don't do that.
So he also, Vladimir Putin, had mentioned that he would prefer for Donald Trump to get elected and be president instead of Joe Biden. Was anyone really surprised by that?
I thought he said the opposite, but I don't give a damn what he said. Who cares who Putin prefers, right?
Yeah.
Now, if he spends money in America or he does other things in America to try to influence election, that's a different matter.
My bad. Sorry, you were correct. I totally misread that. So Putin also took the opportunity to troll Joe Biden while speaking with Russian TV propagandist Pavel Zarubin, saying that he would prefer to see the current president reelected than a return of Donald Trump following the November ballot.
Now, see, that's good propaganda. Compromat. Well, not compromat, different propaganda. Anyway, so the reason is because then it gets reported as, oh, Putin thinks Biden is so weak and he prefers to have Biden in there, which of course helps Donald Trump, and he knows that.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but what's interesting, last thing for me is, Trump does the same trick, right? Tim Scott endorses him. Then he's like, what happened? I thought Nikki Haley made your career, but you just screwed her over. You loser, right? So he'll do that all the time for people who made the mistake of supporting him, right? But there was several times where the two bullies met, and who bullied who? And of course, there's that infamous press conference and picture where Putin came out and was like, oh, I am better than American intelligence. Say so, dog. And Trump was like, yes, I believe him instead of my own people. Oh, am I serving you well enough? Oh, so we see who's strong and who's weak. Okay, Donald.
Look, Trump did slap Russia with some sanctions too. Like, you know what I mean? So I feel like that got downplayed during his term. And
nah, that was tiny. It was window dressing. Okay, right. We can disagree about it, but no. Look, Trump's super transparent. Why is he nice to Putin? Well, Putin helped him during the elections. He's like, what am I supposed to do? Not be nice to people who help me? Right. You know how Trump is. He's very transactional. Same thing with the Saudis. He's like, what am I supposed to do? Not help them? They bought my apartments for $30-40 million. He's like, you help me, you give me money. Who cares about the American people? American people suckers are losers. You help me, I help you. Putin, you're helping me, I'm your dog. Okay, whatever you need, and that's how it works. Hey, thanks for watching the video. We really appreciate it, guys, and we appreciate it if you become members because that allows us to be independent, honest, progressive, all the things that you